If you're struggling to grow your business, you're probably looking at the wrong metrics. Hi, my name is Morgan Whalen. I'm a fractional CFO, and I work with small business owners every single day to help them read, interpret, and make better decisions with their data. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what most business owners are looking at and prioritizing and how that focus needs to shift in order to actually see the results you're looking for. So let's get right into it. The first thing that we're going to look at is lagging indicators. And so what does that mean? Well, a lagging indicators, think of them as like the results of your effort or the things that you've done in your business. So think of monthly revenue, think profit, churn, cash on hand, pretty much things that tell you what have already happened or have occurred in your business. And you're looking at it historically and measuring, okay, what actually happened during this period of time. So when you pull up your profit and loss statement for a month, a quarter, you're looking at historical numbers, things that have already happened. And those numbers are really an accumulation of actions. And so if you wanted to focus on your revenue, that's great to grow your top line. But in reality, just focusing on that number alone isn't going to help you. You have to look at what are the things that make up the revenue growing and then say, how can we do more of those things, or how can we make it faster or better, right? We have to move from lagging indicators to leading indicators. And even one step before that is your inputs. And so we're going to look at both of these. So your leading indicators are the early signals of the results that are going to be that are showing up on your like your profit and loss or your lagging indicators. So they're often based on your inputs, or they're entirely based on your inputs. What they do is really help you predict future performance or help you predict those lagging indicators, meaning profit, meaning revenue, meaning cash on hand, things like that. What does that look like? Well, your leading indicators are going to be sales calls, number of website visitors. And so if you increase the number of website visitors, odds are likely outcome is that you're going to have more conversions, more sales as a result. Proposals sent, customer satisfaction. So not just on the sales and marketing side, but on the fulfillment side. If you're doing a really great job, if you're improving your processes over there, if you're responding quicker, then maybe something like a metric like customer satisfaction will start increasing. And guess what? If they start increasing, then the lagging indicator, which is churn, would be reduced over time. So you can see how one plays into another. And so the inputs are the things that you actually can directly control. Leading indicators you can definitely control as well. And then the outputs are really the results of what happened. Inputs are things like, how much you spend on advertising, how many cold calls you're making in a day, the number or pieces of content that you're putting out. Maybe it's a blog post, maybe it's an email, maybe it's organic social media, right? It's how many content pieces you publish. The more you focus on those inputs, the more you're going to have leading indicators, right? It all starts on inputs. And then from there, it starts trickling down to leading indicators. And then the results of those leading indicators or those conversions are what end up to be your output. So that's how you want to think about it in that sequence. Most people, like I said, are focused on the outputs and not focused as much on the inputs. And so we want to shift that attention over here and say, what do we need to change on an input level and or maybe a leading indicator level, depending on what your metrics are telling you, to then improve our profit and loss, to improve our profitability, to improve our top line revenue. So that's the shift that needs to happen. You can't control revenue directly, but you can control your inputs. That's the key here. When you get your inputs right consistently, then your outputs will start taking care of themselves. So if you have fluctuating numbers all the time on your profit and loss, it's probably because you're not doing enough volume on your inputs to then have your leading indicators and then your outputs show what they need to. So if you ever have a problem with what's showing up on your profit and loss, we want to first start digging back to those two layers. Let me give you a real world example here. So how do we get input to output? Well, if you, on a personal level, you eat right, you work out, you get a good night's sleep, right? Those are all inputs. Then what will happen? You're going to have a healthier body, you're going to have a clearer mind, more energy, and you're going to lose weight. Okay. So those are the outputs. So inputs are those things that you can control. And as a result, you're going to get these outcomes, right? Healthier body, clearer mind, more energy, and you lose the weight. Why do most business owners get stuck? Well, we just talked about this. They live and die by their P&L. So looking at those metrics and saying, we just need to increase revenue, we need to increase margin, but then they're not going back to the actual input that's driving the P&L to show up the way it is. You got to think of your P&L like a report card. It's not the game plan, okay? If you miss your quarterly target Everyone's going to go look to scramble to figure out how do we fix that. But then you've already lost the time, right? So if you're looking at things on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, you're looking back in the rear view mirror, which is going to make it really hard to change that fact, right? You want to start looking ahead of you to then determine, okay, what are the things I can change now to where it'll show up on my profit and loss a week from now, 2 weeks from now, or maybe instantly, right? How can I start moving from a reactive metrics to proactive metrics? So that's the goal. So again, that would be reactive finances, just looking at your profit and loss and then making decisions, right? We want to start looking forward and then using the profit and loss as almost like your scorecard or game sheet to see if you're doing well or not. Just like in this example here, you can't drive forward. I love this. You can't drive forward by looking backwards. Okay. You can't drive forward by looking backwards. If you look, most of the time when you drive your car, you're looking ahead. You may every once in a while glance in the rearview mirror. Perfect. That glance in the rearview mirror is like looking at your financial statements. It's looking at your profit and loss, your cash balance, your balance sheet, those things like that. But for the most part, when you're driving, you got to look ahead of you and you have to look at your dashboard, right? You want to make sure you're going the speed limit, you have the right amount of fuel, that kind of stuff, right? And so we want to look ahead, not as much behind, in order to be more proactive in the way that we're doing business and then be able to make decisions that will then affect how much profit, how much revenue we're making. Many leading indicators and or maybe even some inputs sometimes too, but have lag time for the results to show up. So inputs and leading indicators have lag time, right? You have the input first, then it turns into a leading indicator, then the leading indicator turns into an output. Okay. And so what happens, that whole sequence there, it could take some time for it to happen or for it to get to the level that you want it to. So if it doesn't happen overnight, you don't want it to start freaking out, right? So if you judge too early and input too early, it may kill the right activities too soon in your business or the things that you need to be doing on a behavioral and daily level that you need to be doing to get the outputs or the financials that you're looking for. So that's why we don't just track the inputs, but we also need to understand the timing between cause and effect. So if I make 100 cold calls a day, it may take a while for it to actually show up as revenue on the profit and loss statement. So I may be going through month 1 of cold calling, nothing happens. Month 2, cold calling, nothing happens. It may take 2, 3, 4 months, right? I just made a little quick table of some of the inputs and how that can affect the timing and output. So if you're doing organic social media, and again, this varies, right? If you're in like a e-commerce business, these timetables will look different. I'm thinking more of B2B sales here when I'm looking at this table. So organic social media, it may take 2 to 5 years before you have a big enough following where people want to buy from you. This is a long ramp up time, low cost, and it's brand driven. So if you're like, well, I'm putting this time and effort into social media, I'm not getting it back. Okay. Yeah. Did you do the 2 to 5 years? Were you consistent? Did you get better each time? Do we make more iterations on that process to then drive more views, which will then drive more traffic, which will then drive more conversion? Paid ads, this could take 24 hours to 72 hours. And this is why this is very attractive for a lot of people. Most business owners want instant results right now, right? Because it's more intent based, it's more optimized to get people who are ready to purchase right now. Again, it's understanding your timetables of which one you want to go with for your growth channel, the inputs that you're doing, like feeding marketing dollars into advertisements versus feeding marketing dollars into organic, two different things, two different time horizons here. Okay. SEO, right? So this is more blog. You're looking at 6 to 12 months. A referral network, you can start building your network after you've been doing your business for 12 months or maybe even a little bit longer than that. So if you're just getting into business and you're just trying to work off referrals, one, it'll plateau really quick. And then two, it may take a while for you to even get there. And then like a new sales rep. So again, another way is you could just bring on more salespeople who have their own network or who can sell for you and you don't have any marketing really in your business. Well, then that could take anywhere from 30 to 90 days to speed up that sales rep. So you get the idea. Depending on what channel you want to do or the way that you want to acquire customers, you're going to have a delay between when you actually start working and growing in that channel versus when you actually start seeing results on your profit and loss statement. What leading indicators can do for you. So they let you ask questions like, are we booking enough calls this week to hit next month's revenue? You take it one step back even before leading indicators. You can then also say, okay, what is the things that's driving people to book a call? Okay, well, let's look at that first. Are we doing enough of that thing to then get enough booked calls? And then are we getting enough book calls to get the amount of revenue that we're wanting to have? So you can see how the inputs play the role into the leading indicators, and then the leading indicators play a role in what you'll see on your profit and loss statement. So, are we getting enough referrals to support the pipeline, right? If we're getting one referral a month, is that good enough? How can we increase it? Are there ways? No? Okay. So then maybe we've tapped out the referral channel as much as we can, and we need to do other sources to bring in people. And then, as a consequence of us being exceptional at what we do, we're going to grow our referrals. So, you got to understand that as well. All right, same thing too. Is the client onboarding moving fast enough for us to deliver what we're considering a great experience for our customers? So that's another question you can ask yourself. So another thing would be like onboarding time, or how long does it take for them to get spun up to a level where now it's just more of a consistent basis, or how long does it take us to complete the job? So if we do like one-time project work and typically takes us 15 days, if we can deliver it in 10 days, that's great for the customer, right? And so you speed up your cost of fulfillment, and then they get their end product or the result that they're looking for quicker. Win-win. These aren't just metrics, by the way. They're levers that you can pull. So you got to think about it, kind of like what I was talking about. So if I want more booked calls in this example, you got to look at the lever right before that. So maybe I spend more on ads, or maybe I do more reach outs, or maybe I make more organic social media content. So you got to look at what lever drives the metric that you're wanting to increase or decrease or change. So there's usually one that is before it, which I'm calling the inputs here, to help you. Because then now, okay, all right, booked calls are working, but then now we're not getting people to show. Okay, maybe we need to do more follow-ups to actually get people to show to their appointment, right? And all that then translates into revenue, growth, and profit for your business. So it's understanding what levers manipulate your metrics that you're tracking, your KPIs that you're tracking. What metrics do you need to track in? Because then this becomes really important. If you don't have the right numbers, you're not going to know what the problem is, where the problem is, either in your sales process, whether that be in your delivery process, whether that be in your billing process, whether that be in your fulfillment process, right? Whatever it may be, there's all these processes and big sections in your business that the client usually goes through. And so like, what do you need to be tracking? So it could be for sales inputs, it could be cold emails, it could be proposals sent. Again, it could be number of organic social media pieces, could be number of cold calls that you do. Those are all inputs. So then the leading indicators would be calls booked, proposals delivered, and then your pipeline value. Now, pipeline value can get really distorted very quickly because everyone wants to hit their metrics in sales. And so their pipeline value may look bigger than it actually is, right? So you really have to understand, okay, how much of that actually converts. And we're not going off of just what they think, but what we know from a metric standpoint is most likely to occur from that sales pipeline. And then your lagging indicator is the revenue close for the month. How much new revenue did we get from this sales team or this sales individual? So you want to control as much as you can the inputs. You want to try to improve the process on the leading indicators. So if we're not getting enough book calls, what is the step right before the book call? Or what are things that we can do input wise to then make sure more people show up for the calls that they booked? Or it may be like, okay, not enough people are booking on the booking page that we have. So what can we change from like a headline perspective and image perspective? Maybe we need to add more testimonials. You get the idea, but there's things that you can do to help improve that metric or that conversion. So for marketing, again, it could be email sent, it could be content posted for inputs. Leading indicators could be opt-ins, lead generation, how many leads are you getting on a weekly, monthly basis. That's a great indicator and a good sign typically for future revenue, right? So then the question then becomes, how good are we converting leads into customers? That's the question. So again, lagging, it's revenue, it's anything on your profit and loss. All the financial metrics, again, are really about the lagging indicators. And you have to look either into the acquisition, the sales and marketing, or you have to look into the delivery to figure out, okay, what levers do we need to pull to make this number go up? And then in operations, right? It could be standard operating procedures, internal response time. Those are things that you can directly control. As once someone reaches out to you via email to your support team, how fast does it take for you to respond? If you responded 5-10 minutes every single time, the customer is going to feel like that was a great experience they just had because they got the answer quick. Hopefully it was accurate. Hopefully it was in a friendly manner. And now you've just built one good moment for them. And if you stack up a lot of good moments, that's a good customer experience. Again, it's onboarding cycle time, it's fulfillment rate. How fast does it take for us to, let's say they order a product online on your store, how long does it take for them to actually receive the product? That could be something too. Or if you are onboarding, if you're doing like a service-based business, how long does it take for them to get through our onboarding process? How easy is it to get through our onboarding process? And then as a result, if you do a good job on those things, if you standardize what you do, if you have a fast response time, if you handle what you can at the inputs level and the leading indicator level, then the lagging, which is your churn and client LTV, will hopefully, ideally, go up over time. So again, it's looking at your inputs, it's measuring your leading indicators, and as a result, your lagging indicators will start to improve. And some of your most valuable inputs, as a side note here, don't actually show up on a spreadsheet or anything that you do, right? It could be time spent training your team. If you're the owner, some of the most valuable time you could do is in training your team. As you get bigger, that's all you're really doing. You're a coach, you're a trainer to help people, do better in meetings, do better in how they deliver, to help them with areas where they're fuzzy with maybe presenting SOPs, so standard operating procedures. It could be checklists, but the amount of those that you're doing to systematize your process, as you do these things more and more, you start getting into a rhythm of, okay, this is the order of operations. And if you could systematize it and you could spread it across a group of people that are doing the same job, then that guarantees a consistent output every time. Again, typically that means better customer experience. Founder's energy. A lot of times, especially in a small business, your energy is the most important, right? Because you're the one who can see everything that's happening inside the business and you're the most important team member. Your energy is really, really important, but that's not going to show up on a spreadsheet anywhere. But that could be your diet, your relationship that you have with your spouse. That could be you, getting a good night's sleep, working out, taking care of your body, getting sunlight, those things. That's not going to show up on a spreadsheet or anything like that. Again, internal team response time. So if you send out a message to someone inside your team, how long does it take for them to say, okay, got it, and then they can go move forward in what they're doing, right? A lot of time is lost because people don't know what they need to do. Then they ask, then they have to wait for a response, and that could be an hour, 2 hours, whatever. And then they just lost all that time where they could be productive. So again, those are some metrics that maybe you don't even measure. It would be very hard to measure, but is super, super important inside your business that would make or break you being successful or you increasing, profit or revenue as a result. So every one of these has a downstream effect on retention, delivery, and growth overall. If it affects how the business runs, it's an input. Let's go into this, finding the root cause. So let's say revenue's down as an example. So that's an output. So then where do you go? All right. So you reverse engineer how you're making your revenue. Okay. Then you look, is traffic down? If you're doing online marketing, then it may be a marketing problem if you're looking there. Okay. Are sales calls low? It may be your outreach team that you're doing. Okay. So if you're using a sales team, what's the problem there? If it's marketing, what's the problem there? If calls are not converting, it may be a process issue. Maybe people aren't following the script. People aren't doing what they're supposed to do, or they need more training, or they need someone to spot correct them as they're doing their calls so then they can learn from those mistakes in real time and then move on to the next call and be better prepared. All right, is churn high? So maybe something with fulfillment, onboarding, team delivery. Outputs are really just the clues. They're the symptoms in reality. Leading indicators are the trail. So it's helping you understand, kind of going backwards of, okay, what makes up what we do? And at a fundamental level, again, going back to this, what lever do we need to pull in order to be able to get revenue back on track in this example? So the whole thing here is you always need to walk back upstream until you find the metric that's broken. And again, I go back to this, but if you're not measuring it, how are you going to know which metric is broken? That's the tough part. Okay. The results will come if you focus on the right behaviors. And if you know what those right behaviors are, in the end, the outputs will take care of themselves. In the end, the revenue will take care of itself. In the end, profit will take care of itself. So it's to stop stressing over revenue, you need to start tracking your leading indicators and your input. For you, you can start asking yourself, what actions are we taking on a daily basis? How can we start tracking those things? What's happening weekly that we need to start tracking? So some things may not happen every single day. What can I do to influence, what can I do today that can create a better outcome for tomorrow? So what are the things that I can go look at and say, these are the things that we're doing on a daily basis, or these are our leading indicators. What do I feel like is the one thing that we can focus on and get better at. We want to get you from a reactive CEO to a strategic and forward looking, because if you can control based off of the leading indicators and not be reactive, you're going to take back that power. You're going to be able to then say, these are the things we need to focus on or get better at in order to improve the metrics or our lagging indicators. So, as a reminder, control the inputs, improve the leading indicators, and the outputs will take care of themselves. If you like this, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll be making more videos like this so you can better understand your metrics, better understand how you can make and build the business that you want to. But that's all for this one. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and I'll catch you on the next one.